On March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 operating as Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanished from radar screens. It was carrying 227 passengers and 12 crew members from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. In the decades since, this disappearance has become one of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time. What really happened to MH370? Today, we're diving deep into the facts, the theories, and the enduring questions that surround this tragic event. The flight took off just after midnight. Everything seemed normal. About 40 minutes into the flight, as it was passing from Malaysian to Vietnamese airspace over the South China Sea, the aircraft's transponder, which communicates with ground control, was turned off. The last verbal contact was from the co-pilot Farik Hamid, who said, "Good night, Malaysian 370. Shortly after, the plane vanished from civilian radar. But it didn't just disappear. Military radar tracked the plane for another hour, showing it deviating dramatically from its planned route. Instead of flying northeast to Beijing, it made a sharp turn back to the southwest, flying across the Malay Peninsula. It then turned northwest, flying up the Strait of Malacca before disappearing from military radar range. This deliberate deviation from the flight path is one of the most baffling aspects of the case. It wasn't a mechanical failure that sent the plane spiraling down. It was a series of intentional actions. For hours, the world was unaware. It was only when the flight failed to arrive in Beijing that the alarm was raised. An unprecedented international search effort began, initially focusing on the South China Sea, where contact was last made. But then, a crucial piece of information emerged. A British satellite communications company, Inmarsat, had been receiving automated hourly pings from the aircraft. These pings didn't give a precise location, but they allowed analysts to calculate two possible flight paths, or arcs, one to the north over Central Asia, and one to the south over the remote southern Indian Ocean. The northern arc was quickly ruled out. Flying over countries like China, India, and Pakistan would have meant crossing some of the most heavily monitored airspace in the world. It's highly unlikely the plane could have gone undetected. This left the southern arc a vast, desolate stretch of ocean, thousands of kilometers from the nearest landmass. This became the new focus of the search. So what happened on board that led the plane so far off course? This is where the theories begin. The most prominent one is the pilot suicide mass murder theory. It centers on Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah. Some investigators believe he deliberately depressurized the cabin, incapacitating the passengers and crew, before flying the plane on autopilot until it ran out of fuel and crashed into the ocean. Proponents of this theory point to a flight simulator found in his home, which had a route plotted into the southern Indian Ocean that was eerily similar to the plane's SAS final path. However, there's no concrete evidence to support this. Captain Zahari, as family and friends describe him, as a dedicated family man and a passionate aviator with no history of mental health issues. The final report from the Malaysian government found no evidence of unusual behavior or stress in his life. The flight simulator data, while suspicious, is not a smoking gun. Many pilots use simulators to practice various scenarios, including emergencies. Another theory is a hijacking. Could someone else have taken control of the aircraft? This seems unlikely. There were no ransom demands, no political statements, and no credible claims of responsibility from any terrorist groups. The level of aviation knowledge required to disable the communication systems and navigate the plane so precisely suggests someone with extensive piloting experience was at the helm. If it was a passenger, they would have needed to overpower the pilots, a difficult feat in a secured cockpit. What about a catastrophic event, like an onboard fire or a sudden depressurization? A fire, perhaps involving the cargo of lithium-ion batteries, could have knocked out communication systems and forced the pilots to turn back. However, this doesn't fully explain the long controlled flight path to the south. In an emergency, pilots are trained to land at the nearest suitable airport. The plane flew for hours, making several deliberate turns, which contradicts the idea of an uncontrolled emergency. A more complex theory involves a ghost flight scenario. Perhaps an initial event, like a fire, incapacitated the crew, but the plane continued to fly on autopilot until it ran out of fuel. The initial turn back could have been an attempt to return to Malaysia, but if the crew was overcome by smoke or hypoxia, the plane could have just kept going. This theory accounts for the long flight time, but struggles to explain the precise navigation and the disabling of the transponder. Over the years, the search for MH370 was the largest and most expensive in aviation history. Ships, planes, and submersibles from multiple countries scoured an area of the southern Indian Ocean, the size of a small country. For years, they found nothing. The deep, rugged underwater terrain made the search incredibly difficult. Then, in July 2015, more than a year after the disappearance, a piece of wreckage washed ashore on Reunion Island, off the coast of Africa. It was identified as a flaperon, a part of the wing from a Boeing 777. Oceanographers used these debris discoveries to reverse model ocean currents, trying to pinpoint a more accurate crash site. These models suggested the crash likely occurred north of the original search area. A private company, Ocean Infinity, launched a new search in 2018 based on this data, but it also ended without finding the main wreckage. The official search was suspended in 2017. The final report concluded that they were unable to determine the cause of the disappearance. Without the main wreckage and, crucially, the flight data recorders, the black boxes, the truth remains locked away at the bottom of the ocean. So where does that leave us? 10 years on, the families of the 239 people on board are still without answers. They live in a painful limbo, unable to grieve properly without knowing what happened to their loved ones. For them, the mystery is a daily torment. New technologies and analytical methods offer a glimmer of hope. In recent years, a new analysis using weak signal propagation reporter data, or WSPR, has proposed a new, more precise search area. This technology uses a global network of amateur radio signals to track disturbances, and some researchers believe it may have tracked MH370's final flight path. This has led to renewed calls for the search to be reopened. The Malaysian government has indicated it is open to considering new credible evidence to resume the search. The disappearance of MH370 changed aviation forever. It led to new regulations requiring commercial aircraft to report their position every 15 minutes and to have flight recorders that are easier to recover from deep water. But these changes came too late for the 239 souls on board. The story of MH370 is a chilling reminder of the limits of our technology and our understanding. It's a puzzle with too many missing pieces. Was it a deliberate act by a rogue pilot? A hijacking gone wrong? A catastrophic mechanical failure? Or something else entirely? Until the main wreckage is found, we can only speculate. The Indian Ocean holds its secrets tightly. But for the sake of the families and for the future of air safety, the search for answers must continue. What do you think happened? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe for more deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries.